There was something about watercolor that really spoke to me the first time I tried it out. When I was younger, I adopted this attitude of there will be no such thing as mistakes in my art. And I think watercolor stays pretty true to this. Every mark I make is intentional, and I do my best to avoid erasing. Watercolor is not a very forgiving medium, and I like it for this reason, which most people don't. I've always been drawn to contour lines since being introduced to them. I think it's my journey to simplifying my art. As I've gotten older, I've craved a more abstract approach. I love outlining shapes that I want to emphasize or creating new shapes. These shapes are always organic forms. I've always been this anxious, detail-oriented person, which is a headache and takes a long time for me to complete anything. So this simplifying is kind of my way of coping with this. Many people are surprised to look at my paintings and learn that I use watercolor. I'm not a traditional watercolorist in any sense. I was never taught how to properly paint with watercolors, which I'm grateful for because I would probably overthink the process. I'm not afraid to get really heavy with my pigment. I think it makes it more interesting. The shapes I mentioned earlier are created with pencil, usually. Sometimes I use color pencil, sometimes pen. Without this extra element, my work feels very incomplete to me. As a young artist, I remember being taught to never let pencil show under my paint, which I always thought was absurd. I guess I've never been much of a rule follower. My biggest subject lately has been the portrait. I've always had a hard time connecting with people. I struggle socially, and painting them may be my way of understanding them further. Backgrounds of my work create a sort of mystery to my audience, and also a curiosity, a beauty, and emotion that is displayed through the person. These backgrounds are just as important as the portrait. They tell a story about the person I'm depicting, which may be more clear in some than others. I use natural elements in my work. I've always loved the colors of the earth. I love rocks, plants, water. Color has always been very important in my work. I rarely create monochrome pieces anymore. This was something I used to do, but I've strayed far away from that. The faces I draw are not quite photorealistic. I tried to stay far from that. I'm more interested in them being recognizable. I like to intertwine my portrait with my background, and it kind of connects the person and creates a new feeling. When creating my work, I usually start with a photograph and choose parts of it and distort it to please my eye. Something I've done for quite a while now is collect watercolor palette pieces that I used to dry my brush while making a larger painting. These pieces of paper are like unintentional abstract pieces that have a beautiful quality of their own. My most recent work is experimenting with these sheets and playing with the painted shapes as part of the composition. I've been taking a colored pencil and drawing on top of them. I'm really interested to see where this leads me in my art.